Man, I jumped up.
Man.
I said, man, what the hell are you doing in the club if you the pastor? He said, man, the scripture says launch off into the deep. He said, you can't catch a big fish in a small pond.
Come on.
Man, I took that mask off and water just came down. That's from all the tears that was in my eyes.
Right.
And I said, he said, man, the only thing I ask you to do is give God 1 year.
No.
He said, just be faithful and come to church, come to Bible study if you can. And he said, your tithes and offering. And he said, man, and if nothing in your life don't change, go back to doing you.
Right.
That first day, from after that point, I stopped drinking. Stopped clubbing. Everybody, man, what's up? We going to the club? I said, nah, man, I'm chilling tonight. And I chilled for about 8 months. I don't know how everybody else feel, but once you get saved, you want everybody to have that feeling. And I understand what a crackhead goes through when they hit that first hit.
Right.
They looking for that second.
Every way you try this.
Yeah. And man, and as I'm sitting there, I'm trying to get everybody, but I was one of them Christians, once you get saved, you try to tell everybody now, man, if you don't do this here, man, God gonna strike you down and this and that. And God I was in the car and God said, hold on now.
Yeah.
Slow down. He said, you just got saved.
Right. Yeah.
And I went to a point where I just sat down, didn't say nothing, just kept staying in my word. And man, it was just going through just all the stuff I went through. I had gotten to a point when I'm going to a barbershop, getting my hair cut. And it was a young lady that was sitting next to me. So I told her, hey, I'm getting ready to do an event. Man, would love for you to come. Never seen this woman in my life. I just knew she works, at H-E-B. Get there, man, and we started talking. And she said, I'm going to try to make it. The event was over with. I didn't see her.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, she called. She said, hey, how did everything go? Said, everything went well. I said, thanks for asking. And I asked her, I said, who is this? And she told me Kabbalah. So I never knew, I couldn't remember how she lived, but I remember the name. And I said, hey, do me a favor, man. As we was talking, I said, send me a picture. When she sent me a picture, man, God told me that's your wife.
Wow.
Never had dated her. And man, and in the midst of all that, God said, tell her, that you're her husband. I tell her 1 month later, I wound up asking her mom for a hand in marriage. I asked her dad, I called him, he's in Louisiana, asked him, for his daughter hand in marriage. And then the last person was her son.
Yeah.
So I said, if he say anything shady or crooked, it ain't gonna happen.
I'm out.
What I'm saying? And he said, man, you make my mom laugh. My mom always talk about you. He said, man, yeah, I would love for you to, to be, a part of the family. And my very first sermon that I preached was actually Easter Sunday. So I had all her family to come in. And when they looked up and I had my homeboy singing Ribbon in the Sky.
Yeah.
And man, when he seen that, she was like, well, why is he playing this song? And when she looked back, she seen all her family. And that's when I was on my knee and asked her for a hand in marriage. And man, from there, God was just showing me, hey, you finna go through some levels now.
Yeah.
Didn't realize in the same year that we got married, my wife would be pregnant. Went from being pregnant to having a miscarriage. From having a miscarriage to having a massive stroke 2 months later.
Yeah.
Couldn't walk or talk. And I'm saying, come on, God, man, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, this and that. Why would you put me in this situation? He said, well, I'm teaching you how to stay in the cut.
Oh, yeah.
He said, because you've been so used to when things happen, you pack up and you leave. He said, but I'm showing you what it means to have unconditional love.
Yeah, I remember I see somebody say, why do everybody think for better and good, for good and better?
Yeah, for better and worse.
For better and worse, they always think the better come first.
Yeah.
Sometimes the worst come first.
Yeah. But man, God had to show me. He said, I'm showing you how to love unconditional. He said, and the reason why you're going to love unconditional because you first learn how to love me.